So as you know, we did get paid out those distributions on our high yield ETFs. So I'm going to go ahead and update my spreadsheet to show those distributions. And I also made some purchases on a couple of these ETFs. So we'll add those in, which will help to drop that real price per share even more. So all of this is to help to understand how I'm playing these high yield ETFs and how I'm able to continually to drop that real price per share no matter what the market price is doing. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So it's the weekend and it's time to update my spreadsheet, find out where I'm currently at in my positions. How many are green, how many are down, and I'm excited to find out if I'm going to be able to change some of these red ones to green ones. I may and I may not, but we'll find out what they change to once I enter in those distributions and those purchases that I did make this past week. But just to give a quick little overview before we enter those in, you can see I am down on CONY by 12.9%. ULTY, I'm down 2.2%. SMCY, down 1.3%. WDTE, I'm down 7.45%. And the rest of these are green, which means I am up in those plays. And how I determine if they're green or not is if I were to sell out of those shares at that current price, if I would make money on that sell of those shares, then it shows it as green. It will show it as red if I were to sell out of those ETFs at that current price and actually lose money. Then it will show it as red. And it shows how much I would actually lose if I did sell at that current price. And as you can see, it's not much, right? Some of these that I'm up on were at, $1,800 up, $1,100 up, $3,500 up, and so forth. But the ones that I'm down on, like in WDTE, I'm down $280. SMCY, I'm down $21. ULTY, I'm down $55. And the last one, which is the largest one that I am down on, is CONY, and I'm down $856. So before we go in and we update the spreadsheet, if you don't mind, hit that like button as it would be much appreciated. So first of all, we're going to start right off with CONY. And to get to that individual stock tracking sheet, you can just simply hover over that ticker symbol right here off of that summary page and click the little pop-up link, and that takes you directly to the individual stock tracking sheet for that particular ticker symbol. And of course, if you would like to get a copy of this spreadsheet, which does include the individual sheets along with that summary page that will basically summarize everything you've entered into the individual sheets, then check out the link down in the pinned comments below and in the description, where you can join my Discord, get a copy of this sheet, along with any other purchases that I do make. I make sure to notify my Discord members of those purchases just so they can watch to see what I'm doing. Now for these distributions here, I've already entered in that amount that was announced and the X date, okay, just to help speed it along. So for CONY, we did earn 39 cents. And how many shares do I have? I've got 98 shares. And how I determine that is I use this date, which is the X date. And if I have any purchases on that X date or after that X date, I cannot count those shares. And you'll see an example of that on one of the ETFs that I did purchase on that X date, as we will not be able to add those shares for this particular distribution. But for CONY, I have not made a purchase on or after January 15th, so I can count for all the shares that I currently have. And the total number of shares here is calculated, and it shows it as 98 shares. So I enter in 98 right here, and once I hit enter, that's going to recalculate all of my fields up here, and it's going to regenerate that new real price per share, which is basically the adjusted price per share, and it takes into account the distributions you've earned throughout, as that is your real average price per share. And in my books, this is the most important value when you're using these high yield ETFs. You really need to be calculating what that real price per share is, because if you're not, you really don't know where you currently stand in your position. So that's why my spreadsheets here are very helpful. And if you have a way of calculating that, then please do that. But if you do not, join the Discord where you can get a copy, and then you can start really being able to follow and understand what your real adjusted price per share is to know whether or not you are up or down on that position when you include your distributions. So at 98 shares, at that 39 cents, my real price per share is going to change from 48.89 down to 48.49. I am still down on the play, right? Because the current price is $40.15, but it has been coming down, and it's almost to the point where I can actually make a purchase and help to drop this real price per share down even more, so that when CONY would happen to move back up, it's got less room to go before it actually crosses my real price per share. And that's why calculating this number, which is this real price per share, that's why it's so important in my opinion. But if I were to sell all my shares at that current price of $40.15, which that is the closing price of the last trading day, then I will lose 12.3%, which is about $817. Now I have a total of about $6,633 invested. So $800 isn't too bad, as it's only about 12% of the total amount that's invested. But I am working to get this down so that I can lower that loss and eventually flip this to green. And that is my goal. But moving on, we have PLTY. So for PLTY, we earned 41 cents. And how many shares do I have? Well, I have 37 shares because I have not purchased any more PLTY at or after that January 15th X date. So my real price per share of $1.70 now changes to $1.29. So we are lowering it on down, and eventually it'll get down to 0 and below. And once it does that, it will be then paid off. And what does that mean? Well, that means that this distributions that I have earned will exceed the amount that I have invested. And as you can see, it's very close to reaching that point right now, as I'm only about $47.65 at risk. And when you divide that by the number of shares I have, that's how I'm calculating the $1.29 per share for my real price per share. So super excited about this one. We did get a little bit of a lower distribution, so therefore that payoff time is showing at 3 more distributions. And if you saw last week, it was at 3 distributions. And that's just simply because in order for it to be 3 distributions, that average distribution of 59 cents times that 3 is where we're getting that $1.29. Okay, so when you get a distribution that's under that 59 cents, it can extend it out. And that's why this 3 distributions is an estimated number. Okay, that is not a guarantee, that's estimated because the distributions itself are forever changing. And this averages the last 4 distributions. Okay, so on the last 4 distributions, you can see this average does contain one that had 99 cents. So that has shifted this distribution amount up a bit. Now, once we get one more distribution in, that's going to drop this average just a bit. And we'll see at that point how many estimated distributions I am looking at before I get this one paid off. But like I said in my last video, I don't see why this one won't get paid off by the end of February at the latest, as long as this continues to pay out distributions of around 40 cents. And next we have NVDY. And on NVDY, we did earn a distribution of 9 cents. How many shares? I've got 71 shares. So my adjusted price per share, or my real price per share, of $12.13 now drops to $12.03. Not a big drop, but it is still dropping, right? I'm still dropping that adjusted price per share, no matter what the current price is. So that current price is at $14.46. And since my real price per share is under that, I'm not going to be purchasing any shares of NVDY, because if I do, it's going to buy them at $14.46, and that's going to raise that real price per share of $12.03 up. And I do not want to move it up closer to that current price, because if we have a pullback or a big drop, it's going to shoot right past my real price per share. And I would much rather continue to increase that gap between my adjusted price per share and that current price, so that if it does have a big drop, it's still going to hopefully be above my adjusted price. And that is why I continue to do it like I'm doing it. Next, we have ULTY. And for ULTY, we earn 51 cents. How many shares do I have? I have 56 shares. So I enter in 56, and my adjusted price per share of $38.53 now becomes $38.02. Oh, I'm so close, aren't I? Now, ULTY did drop a little bit. It went down to $37.55. So my real price per share of $38.02 is so close. And if ULTY can move back up, this one here can go green. But that's not going to change how I handle these. I'm going to still continue to do what I'm doing to continue to drop my adjusted price per share. All I need ULTY to do is either just trade sideways or trade up. Either one's going to work for me. And if it does trade down, I can still, like I said, continue to drop this each and every week. So if I were to sell all my shares of ULTY at the current price, I would lose a whopping $26.05. Not too shabby, considering I have about $2,400 invested into ULTY. And we have MSTY. So MSTY will pay out 41 cents. How many shares do I have? I have 95 shares. And since this one is negative 5.54, my real price per share, that means that it is paid off. And as you can see right here, it does state paid off. And of course, the next cell here where it says $526.19, and it gives how many shares you could buy at that current price. And by staying under that number of shares at this current price, you would stay in paid off status. But for now, I am just capturing these distributions. So for this 95 shares, for this distribution of 41 cents, that means my real price per share of minus 5.54 will become minus 5.95. It's just increasing. As at this point, I am making money on MSTY. Now for SMCY, I did make a purchase on SMCY. I actually made 2 purchases on SMCY, as it did drop to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and it was under 10 on the RSI2. And since it is red on my summary page, all 3 of those together means that I'm looking to probably purchase some more shares. And that's what I did. So on January the 13th, I purchased more shares. And what did I buy those shares at? Well, I got them at 7.89 cents on that drop. And how many shares did I buy? Well, I purchased 100 shares at that price. And with that current price of $8.56, I would say that $7.89 was probably a pretty good buy at that time, right? Super happy about that. So since I am buying at that $7.89, which is under my adjusted price per share, because if that price was above $8.69, then I would not be buying. But since 789 was under that real price per share and that RSI 2 was under 10 and it was at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, I did make that purchase. And those 100 shares is going to lower my real price per share from $8.69 down to $8.39. Check it out. Oh, yes. But I made a second purchase, right? And that second purchase was on 114. The very next day, it was still down at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and that RSI 2 was still under 10. So I did purchase again. And this purchase, I got it for just a bit cheaper. Not much, but just a bit. I got it for $7.79. So about 10 cents cheaper. And how many shares did I buy? Well, I went ahead and I just rounded it off, right? I did 30 shares, so that would take me to a even 300 shares. So those 30 shares at $7.79 is going to again lower my adjusted price per share because $7.79 is under $8.39. So off of that purchase, that real price per share of $8.39 is going to lower, and it will now be $8.33. A very nice drop off of those two purchases right there. So it's down to $8.33 now, but we also get to enter in a distribution. And how many shares can I account for that distribution? Well, the X date being January 15th means I have to own the shares before, not on, but before January 15th. And the purchases was on the 13th and the 14th, so I can account for all those shares since my last purchase was before January 15th. So how many shares do I get to count? 300 shares. So those 300 shares will go right into this distribution right here. And my real price per share of $8.33 now becomes $8.25. Ho ho, love it. Check it out. At $8.25 for my real price per share and the current price being $8.56. Guess what, guys? I just flipped it on this one. This one was red and it is now green, right? It is now going to be green. And you can go back in the video and you can see what that was on that summary page as we did show that. But when we look at it here after we're done, it's now going to say $8.25, and it should show it as a green value now. So super excited here as we finally flip this one over. But it doesn't end here because next week when we get another distribution, this $8.25 is going down even further, no matter what that current price does. So if I were to sell all my shares of SMCY at the current price, I would make $93. Not a whole lot, but guess what? It's now positive, at least for this moment. Moving forward, we got AMDY. And how many shares do I have of AMDY? I've got 164 shares. So my real price per share of $31.17 now becomes $30.85. That current price is $38.34. I mean, do you see what I'm doing here? I mean, it's just always working to bring it down. I'm trying to play it as safe as I can. So no matter what that price is doing, I continue to drop that real price per share because I don't know what tomorrow holds for these ETFs. I don't know how far it's going to drop, right? I want to make sure that I am moving away from that current price as much and as fast as I can so that if it does drop, it's got a ways to go before it gets to me. Now, AMDY would have to drop almost $8 before it would get to my adjusted price per share and turn this one from green to red. So if I were to sell all my shares at the current price of $38.34, I would make $1,227. Looking nice. And for YMAX, we earned 8 cents. How many shares do I have? I've got 758 shares, so my real price per share of $7.61 now becomes $7.53, bringing it on down no matter what YMAX current price is doing. And at that current price of $10.06, that means I am green. And if I were to sell all 758 shares, I would make $1,915. And keep in mind, guys, my purchase average is $18.66. And that's why you have to know what your adjusted price per share is. Because if all you're looking at is your purchased share average, you're looking at this and thinking, well, crap, I am down a lot on this one, right? Over $8. But you're not taking into account the distributions you've been earning. And in my case, I've earned $8,431. Now, I do not drip my distributions. And if you do, then you would be entering in that distribution, but you would also be entering in a purchase over here because you are purchasing more shares. You earn the distribution, but then you're rolling it right back in to buy more shares. So you have to make sure that you are accounting for that purchase. And if you're doing that, then of course, the distributions you are earning, you're just rolling them right back in and increasing the capital that you're invested. And if that's how you're playing these ETFs, then that's your choice. But for me, I don't drip these high yield ETFs because I don't know what tomorrow brings on these. I would think you would only want to drip any kind of dividend or distribution into a fund or stock that is moving up over time so that that purchase would be worth more because of the price appreciation over time. But we all know how these funds work. It pays out that high distribution, and that could create NAV erosion. So you have to make sure you account for that. And for me, that's why I select when I want to purchase those shares. And that's why I have my rule to help me decide when to purchase if I'm going to purchase more shares, assuming that the current price is under my real price per share, or else I am not purchasing anyway. Because why would I want to average up, as that hurts my average and puts me closer to that current price, so that when that current price drops, now I'm not looking so good in that position. So moving on to WDTE. And WDTE, I did make a purchase with WDTE as well. As you can see, that current price is at $44.63. I did not buy at that. I made my purchase on 1/15, and I bought those at $45.36. How many shares did I buy? I bought 20 shares. So yes, the current price is below my previous purchase, but that's okay. I got it below my real price per share. And at that time, it was under that Bollinger Band and it was under the RSI 2. So getting those 20 shares at $45.36 is going to lower that real price per share. And it drops it from $48.58 down to $47.87. A very nice drop. But we get to also drop it a little bit more because we did earn a distribution and we earned 55 cents on WDTE. So how many shares do I have? Well, the X date being January 15th, I have to own those shares before that date. So can I count for all 91 shares? No, I cannot. Well, why not? Well, it's simple because my purchase here was on January 15th. And I have to own them before the 15th, not on, but before. So I have to subtract off 20 shares off of this distribution of 55 cents. So instead of 91 shares, I have 71 shares that I can count for this distribution. So 71 shares will adjust my real price per share from $47.87 down to $47.44. And look at that. That dropped that loss down to just above 5% loss. So now, if I were to sell all my shares at that current price, I would only lose $256. Bringing it on down. And if you remember, WDTE was around $48 just earlier. So if it would have stayed at that price, my real price per share would then be under it, and I would be green on this one. So we'll see if WDTE can move back up. And if it does, I'll be able to flip this one to green. Now we have QDTE. And for QDTE, we earned 11 cents on the distribution. How many shares? I have 155 shares. So my real price per share of $23.10 now becomes $22.98. So selling all those shares at that current price of $30.92 means I would gain $1,230. IWMY, we earned 11 cents. How many shares? 551 shares. So my real price per share of $16.01 now becomes $15.89. So if I were to sell my shares at the current price, I'd make $2,600. I know a lot of people say you're going to lose all your money in this, and you could, right? If you don't play these right, you could take a loss in these for sure. But for the majority of mine, I am making money in it. And overall, you'll see at the end, when you total everything up, I am positive on these high yield ETFs. QQQY, we earned 13 cents. I have 551 shares. So therefore, my real price per share of $20.52 now becomes $20.38. And the current price of $23.58 means I would make about $1,700 selling all of my shares in QY. On WDTE, we earned 18 cents and I have 540 shares. So my real price per share of $26.87 now becomes $26.69. And if I sold all my shares, I would make over $2,700. I don't know, guys. It seems to be working out okay for me. But I know I don't do these high yield ETFs a lot like most of the people do. I do play these a bit different, as I do not drip. I only purchase when it's at the bottom of the Bollinger Band and that RSI 2 is under 10, and if that current price is under my real price per share. So that way I'm only averaging down. I do not want to average up, no matter what that price is doing. If that price is skyrocketing and it's jumping 5 to 10% each week, I still will not be purchasing if it is above my real price per share, because I just see that as an opportunity to increase that difference between that current price and my real price per share. Because as that price does increase, the chances of those distributions increasing also increases. So that would mean even more distribution per share, which helps to lower that real price per share even faster. JEPQ is a monthly payer. So we do not have any updates on JEPQ, as I have not earned a distribution of that one since December the 31st. So that real price per share is still $10.66. And the current price is $58.92. So I would make $2,600 if I were to sell all 55 shares of JEPQ at the current price of $58.92. And last but not least is DIVO. And for DIVO, my purchase was December the 30th of 2025. So I have not earned a distribution of this one yet. But if you look, my real price per share of $45.30 and the current price of $45.56, I'm already positive as the price of DIVO has increased. So therefore, the difference there means that if I were to sell all 12 of my shares, I would make $3. Yes, not much, but I also only have 12 shares and I haven't even owned them for a full month to even earn a distribution. So that wraps up all of my distributions and purchases that I've made on my high yield ETFs. So let's go and check out that summary page and find out where I'm currently setting on that. And to get back to that summary page, you'll see I have a button right here. You hover over it, you click summary, and it takes you right back to that summary page. So it's easy to go from the individual sheet right back to the summary. As the individual sheets, you just hover over the ticker and you click to go straight to that individual sheet for that particular ticker symbol. And of course, to go back to that summary, you just hover over and click summary, and right back to the summary page you go. So that definitely helps being able to go between the sheets, as I see that being super helpful. Now let's check out to see how many are red. I had 4 that were red. We were red on CONY, ULTY, and as you know, SMCY was red, and we are now green with SMCY at the current price, because that market price being $8.56 and our real price per share being $8.25. So we have now flipped this one to green, but we are still very close to that market price. So this one still could drop to red, but keep in mind each distribution will help to lower my real price per share. But the actual market price will fluctuate from up to down 50 cents, down $1, up $1.50, down 50 cents. It's going to be all over the place. But those distributions are only going to help to lower that real price per share, which means that's going to help give me that buffer between the two, and that's going to give me that cushion to allow the market price of SMCY to fluctuate and still not affect or flip this to red. But that does take time. It doesn't happen in a day, it doesn't happen in a week, it doesn't even happen in a month. It can take a few months to get it worked out. Now, I am very close to that price currently, so my thought on this one is, after a couple months, I should be setting pretty nice with this one if SMCY just trades sideways or trades down just a little. So happy to get that one back to green. And as we scroll over, you can see on WDTE, we are only 5% down on this one with that current price of $44.63, and my adjusted average price per share is $47.44. Not too bad. And like I said, now we had that big drop on WDTE because HOOD dropped. Now with Bitcoin moving back up, we could see WDTE moving back up. Not guaranteed, but that's what I'm hoping. If we can get WDTE back up to 45, 47, 49, 50, and so forth, then I'm still going to be earning those distributions to help lower that real price per share and just keep letting WDTE move on back up if that's what it's going to want to do. If not, I'll just have to keep fighting it a little bit. And if that price drops and it drops below that 10 on the RSI 2 and at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, then I'll be able to buy more shares to help drop this real price per share even more and even quicker, so it's got less to move up before crossing my adjusted price per share. And sliding on over, you can see the rest of them are green. So everything is green except for WDTE, ULTY, and CONY. And of course, CONY is the one that I'm working on. It will be the one that will take the longest unless the market price can move up. But currently, while it's down, I'm getting really close to being able to buy more shares of CONY to help reduce some of this percentage that I am down. So I'm super excited of what I've got here. I feel pretty good. Now, none of this is financial advice, and you have to make your own decisions, as this is not to make you think that you should get into any of these ETFs, as you should do your own research before you get into any stock, ETF, high yield ETF, or option play. You need to make sure you understand what you're getting into, the upside and the downside of doing so. And just as a quick little bonus right now, this is not yet available to anyone, as I'm still working with this, but I told you I would give you an idea of what I was working on, and that's this number right here. I'm trying to come up with a way, and I think I've got something kind of started here as I enter in what that percentage of that least percentage drop that I want in the difference of calculating that real price per share. And there's a little bit more to that, but that's basically it. So what you would do is you just select which one you want to look at, and we'll pull up WDTE, as WDTE was still down. And of course, it needs the information, so it's just telling you to fill out the calculator over here. So you've got a buy price of WDTE, and we'll just slide right over, and you can see WDTE has a buy price of $44.63. So we'll just enter in that $44.63 right here. And now we have a number of shares that we want to purchase. And what this does is it's going to give you in increments of 5 But what it should be helping you do is to determine what's the max number of shares that you would want to buy to get the most bang for your buck, right? So in this case, I can buy as many shares as I want, right? But this is telling me a max of 25 will give me of at least 0.2% drop. Now, it's not necessarily a 2% drop in that real price per share from one increment to the next, as it is actually a difference of the increments and then a difference of that one as well. So it's a little confusing to try to explain, but you can see if I enter in that 25 shares, then it will give me a 1.28% drop in that real price per share. But if I were to enter in more than that, I'm not going to get as good of a price drop in my real price per share than I would by actually purchasing less. But like I said, this is not yet available, this part over here. The calculator itself, for you just to enter in the price that you would like to buy and the number of shares that you would like to buy, will give you a calculated amount of how much it will cost you, and it will also calculate what that new real price per share would be. This part over here is something that will come in a later version, as I'm still working through this, and at some point I may actually put it on my Discord for the members as more of a beta test, and to find out if this is beneficial, as what I'm trying to do is to find out at what point I'm paying more money per share than I'm actually getting in value of dropping that real price per share. So I apologize for the confusion on that, but that is basically what I'm trying to do, and I'm just trying to give you my thoughts on that. But that Rev 4.1, which has everything you've seen in what we've done, just does not include this box over here, is all available to my Discord members. And if you would like to get a copy, come on over, join the Discord. The link will be in the pinned comments and down in the description below, where you'll be able to get access to the sheet. Then all you'll need to do is make your copy so that you can enter in your own ETFs and track what your real price per share is for each and every one that you have. And of course, don't forget, just for fun, there is the income charts right here, which will calculate your distributions per month versus the day. So it does calculate, combine, and add all of the distributions you've earned and puts it into a nice little chart so you can see what you've earned monthly, yearly, and of course, if you prefer more of a line chart and a pie chart, it shows those as well. Because if you're like me, you're a little bit more visual and you'd like to see what it looks like on a chart. And who doesn't like a chart anyway, right? And of course, we do have the total distributions you've earned, and then the average per month, which is basically just this divided by how many ever months from the point that you started your journey. So like I said, all of this is available, and all you have to do is enter in your distributions, your purchases, and the rest is calculated for you and created so that you don't have to do that each and every time. And then when you're looking at the summary page here, you can quickly see which ones you need to focus on during the trading day. And for me, I'm going to have CONY, ULTY, and WDTE on my stock chart. And if they drop below that 10 on the RSI2, and here it is on WDTE, right? And this was Friday. You can see it's at the bottom of the Bollinger Band, and that RSI2 is under 10. So when that happens and it's a red cell on my sheet, I'm going to look to purchase. Doesn't mean I have to, but I'm going to look to see about purchasing more shares. And that's basically what I'm looking for when I'm looking for my purchases. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button, as it would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.